On Friday, August 24, 2001, a strong-smelling package was officially opened in the courtyard of the post office in Postovska Street in Brno. It was addressed to Jan Zaradil, Kolist 7, postal code 65716 Brno. However, no Zaradil ever lived at that address. The sender's name and address were also false. The only true information was the stamp of the sending post office in Prague 4. After opening the package, the post office staff fell silent in horror. A black plastic bag hid the stinking parts of human hands and arms. In addition to the human upper limbs, it contained other tissue. The entire contents of the package were transferred to the Institute of Forensic Medicine in Brno for examination. Here, fingerprints of an unknown corpse were also taken for possible identification. A day later, on Saturday, August 25, 2001, the post office workers discovered another smelly package at Brno's main railway station, brought as undeliverable from the post office from Uherské Hradiště. It was addressed to the non-existent Stanislav Divis, an apartment at 158 Stromova Street in Uherské Hradiště. Once opened, there was no doubt that the two packages belonged together. The black plastic bag contained human feet and other parts of the lower limbs. The delivery stamp revealed the post office from which the package traveled to South Moravia. It was from the post office in Prague 10. This find also traveled to the Institute of Forensic Medicine in Brno. The assembly of all the found parts of the tissues showed that they could be from one body. They were washed thoroughly before being placed in bags. Fragments of blue paint were found on the bone sections. This indicated that the work surface of the tool that someone had used to cut the bones was blue. Manicured hands indicated that the victim could be a woman or a man posing as a woman. In addition to the pelvis, however, the torso and head were missing. Therefore, it was also not possible to unambiguously determine the manner of death, i.e. whether it was violent with the subsequent quartering of the victim, or whether the body was quartered after a natural death. Smell inspection of packages. There has been speculation about how many such packages may still be in the post office. Therefore, the employees of some post offices were instructed by their superiors to deal with smelly shipments. Therefore, a new Postal Detective Act of sniffing served parcels has been introduced at many post offices. Genetic expertise confirmed that the body parts found belonged to one person. A comparison of the fingerprints of an unknown dead woman with a dactyloscopic database came to nothing. The victim was never punished or registered. Another search focused on all women who had been lost in the South Moravian region in the last fortnight. Again to no avail. Therefore, the only thing left was to find a person who put parts of the human body in packages, or to find the missing remains of the body. The filing stamps printed on the packages indicated that the person who knew a lot about the case of the quartered woman most likely came from Prague. The parcel sender made a mistake, and as it turned out, he was also a killer. On the same day that they found the first package of human tissues at the post office in Postovska Street, 32-year-old Martin Vostárek, a private detective, announced at a Prague Police department that he had been missing his equally old girlfriend Naděžda Nováková since 15 August. They lived together in a small studio in Prague 10 for about 1.5 years. He also included in a special protocol on the missing person his description, clothing, including various characteristics and peculiarities. A few days later, the Brno criminal investigators met with the Prague criminal investigators to carry out checks on the women who were missing from 14 to the 21st of August 2001. Based on this criterion, a total of 10 women were selected. Naděžda Nováková was among them. If Vostárek had not reported to the police that he was missing his girlfriend, the case would have been much more complicated. Confession. At the first interrogation, Martin Vostárek sat in front of the criminal investigators on the morning of September 4, 2001. He had no idea that the criminal investigators had managed to obtain such serious information that he had no chance to deny. Naděžda Nováková's friends confirmed that on August 15 she decided to end her relationship with Martin Vostárek and at the same time wanted him to leave her apartment. They even confirmed that there had been a heated argument between them that day, and no one had seen her since. They also had stronger evidence. They were able to determine what the fragments of blue paint on the bone sections came from. They came from a special iron saw made in Sweden, the blade of which was protected by corrosion against blue paint. The saw was only available in special stores, and in one of these few stores in Prague, investigators and witnesses received it. The salesman remembered that a man in his 30s had bought 3 Swedish ones, little-selling saws. He remembered that it was August 16, and even gave a description of the buyer. He replied to Martin Vostárek. Under the weight of this information, Vostárek began to tell his version of the event. He did argue with his girlfriend on August 15. He knew he had a lover. She left the apartment after an argument. After she left, he drank half a liter of whiskey, although he never drank alcohol. Then he fell asleep. He only woke up briefly after his girlfriend returned home at night. They quarreled again, hitting her in the face once. Before he fell asleep again, he heard her pour water into the bathtub in the bathroom. When he woke up in the morning, he found his girlfriend in the bathtub already dead. Fearing he would be charged with murder, he decided to remove the corpse from the apartment. He bought 3 special Swedish saws, rubber gloves and, completely naked, so as not to stain his clothes with blood, cut the corpse into 6 parts in a tub of water, which he sent to imaginary addresses. He damaged the tub while cutting the corpse, so he had to repaint it. Late in the evening, the hull was thrown into the bushes near Prague's Eden, Prague 10. He wrapped his head in his t-shirt and put it in the freezer. A few days later, he took her to his grandparents in the Kravoklat region, where he unobservedly buried her in the garden under an apple tree. During the interrogation, he firmly denied that he had intentionally murdered his girlfriend. Nevertheless, he was willing to show the places where he hid his torso and head. The missing body parts were actually found there as well. An autopsy later showed that the woman not only had her skull punctured, but was also suffocated. This refuted the assassin's defense that the woman could have caused her own death, for example, by dropping her head on the edge of the bathtub. On the same day, an internal police report was published. On September 4, 2001, an investigator from the Brno Regional Investigation Office reported charges of murder under Section 219(1) to Martin Vostárek, Teplice, temporarily Prague 10, which he committed on August 15, 2001. On his companion Naděžda Nováková. He cut her corpse and sent part of it in parcels to the post office in Brno. Thus, only 12 days passed from the discovery of the first package to the arrest of the killer. If Vostárek decided to call the police after the murder, his act would hardly exceed the borders of the Prague 10 police district, and he would hardly leave the court with such a heavy punishment. Not the murder itself, but an irrational to absurd way of removing cut parts of the body in packages, Vostárka made famous throughout the Republic, and in the eyes of the public he gained the reputation of a bestial killer. His psychological profile also played a negative role. Psychologists and psychiatrists rated him as a narcissistic, egocentric, ruthless, and nervously unstable person with a reduced level of aggression. Because he was pampered by his mother and grandparents, he was uncritical. He showed no guilt during the investigation, but instead felt like a victim of unhappy love. He also did not suffer from any mental illness or sexual deviance at the time of the crime. The motive for the act was jealousy. Martin Vostárek was sentenced to 14 years in prison with increased security. The court also included in the sentence the robbery of a colleague at work and illegal arming. The man owned a shotgun for several years without permission.